That's right. Welcome to the show. It's Dumb Jock number 10. I'm Nate Jackson here at Guerilla Sports headquarters in Denver, Colorado. This is our first remote guest since we started this podcast. It's only a couple months old. We've been typically doing Denver sports people, but we're branching out. We're having a more national conversation right now. And I thought, what better time than to bring in a buddy of mine, a guy I met about 10 years ago, former NFL player, Kyle Turley. Kyle, welcome to the show. How are you doing, brother?
Good, man. Great to be with you, brother. It's awesome to see you again. You look great.
Thanks, man. So do you. So do you. You're in Nashville now, and used to live in LA. Why Nashville? Or you used to live there, or before you moved back, or?
Well, my wife and I, we've been married for 23 years, 21 years, 23 together. And we met in New Orleans. She went to Ole Miss. I was playing for the Saints. We met on Bourbon Street like all long-lasting. And she was from West Tennessee. So during the holidays, I was always coming up to Dyersburg, Tennessee. Anybody who knows Tennessee, that gives me a lot of OG status around here. When I say I'm married to a girl from Dyersburg, they go, "Oh, okay, you're good."
Okay, you're cool. You're cool.
Yeah.
But also, you're a musician, man. You play guitar, you sing songs, you're a songwriter. So have you been feeling like the inspiration to write more music since you moved to Nashville?
Yeah, well, I went after it hard after my career. So in '07, I was done with the Chiefs, and that was my last year. My wife said, we had moved all over. You know the game, you move around. I was almost a Denver Bronco. I'm Kansas City. I was in New Orleans. I was in minicamp with the Dolphins, for a weekend. I was in St. Louis for a couple of years. The road and then rehabbing injuries and all that took me to Arizona, to LA, to all these different places. And when we were done with the career, as married couples are, you have to consider when we're done, not just you're done, if you want to keep it together. And even then it's hard, but you make that decision on where you want to maybe settle down. And I, at that point, when we're done with our careers, it's just like, I just want to not have to go to training camp next year.
Yeah.
So I don't care where it is, So I got here to Nashville that way and came out here, visited. It was beautiful. The homes, the prices and everything were a lot different than they are now. So, coming out of California, I was like, wow, I can live this, I was, millionaire and all this from football,
Right.
but still the amount of, what you can get out here versus California,
Yeah.
for back then, not now. Now it's the other way around. Because of the COVID. And anyway, so we were here for 7 years, and then I did a full music career, toured with everybody under the sun that you can hear in country music today. That's pop, country, or just, Main Street country, from Eric Church to everybody else. I toured with all those people coast to coast for like 5-6 years. I did 100 dates a year.
Wow.
And all the stuff everybody's seeing Post Malone at the Bluebird Cafe 15 years ago, man. Like, yeah, so it was fun. I went after it because I didn't have anything else to do, and was just sitting around, trying to figure it out. And I'd always played music, so I went after that. And then just injuries, a lot of things happened while I was here. Got put on a lot more pills because of neurological stuff, and was in and out of the hospital. And that's when it took me, basically. That's how I met you, because I left
Yeah.
Tennessee in 2014 because I was in and out of the emergency room, every other month. And all my friends were experiencing this resolution in cannabis. So I had to go find out for myself, and then my family and everybody else. And there was a lot of other factors as well. But went back to California and ultimately found that answer. And when I had that answer, and then the COVID hit and all that, I was like, I know a place, and you know what? I can deal with that now. Even that Tennessee's illegal for cannabis. I'm a criminal living here, but don't ask, don't tell, basically.
So you're the seventh pick in the draft in 1998, offensive lineman out of San Diego State, Pro Bowl player, All Pro player. But like you said, injuries, you started to bounce around, and then you ran into some serious issues when you stopped playing. You just described neurological issues. The first time I met you, like I was saying to you off air, we were on stage at the Cannabis Expo in LA in 2015, I believe it was September 2015. I knew who you were. Everyone who follows football knows who you are because you're just a big badass freaking lineman, and you ripped that dude's helmet off and freaking threw it across the field. And so there's an iconic photo of you doing that, right? And so when I met you in person, you were walking with a cane, and I was like, man, this is my brother. We're peers, and to see you in that shape, it was hard for me, and it was hard for everybody to see. And look at you now. You look younger now than like when I saw you then. But you sat up on that stage and said, "Cannabis saved my life." And some people might scoff at a statement like that, but when you started to explain it, it made a whole lot of sense, and it's always stuck with me. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I enjoy explaining it to people because it's the truth. It's what happened. As an athlete, as an NFL football player, you have these injuries, and then you go to the doctor, and they give you their resolution, and their resolutions were pharmaceuticals. And so I can be very explicit with what every pharmaceutical that pretty much everybody in your audience is taking right now and or has taken, from anti-inflammatories, painkillers, muscle relaxers, sleep aids, etc., on into psych meds, because of all the neurological stuff that started happening to me. It wasn't just, oh, my career's over. Oh, so poor me, this, that, and the other. I was having vertigo constantly. I was in and out of the emergency room. I died at a bar here in Nashville, apparently, because the guy that I woke up to said, I couldn't find a pulse. The ambulance is coming. And then I go into full vertigo and have a seizure and have to have 4 nurses hold me down an MRI machine. I needed some answers. So, through the neurologist and all these avenues that I went through to try and find those answers, unfortunately, as I was trying to pursue this music career that I was being really good at, it was very successful, So unfortunately, I can't sue the NFL on that one, because they not only took my football career from me, but they took my music career from me and never helped me a bit, still don't. And, it was a process of just more pills, more pills, more pills. And by the time I moved out of Nashville, I was on all those painkillers, muscle relaxers, sleep aids, and now Wellbutrin, Zoloft, Depakote, all because I just was getting dizzy. I didn't have all these traumas and everything else that they want to put it on now that were causing all this disruption and blah, blah, blah. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. They were just like, oh, this because of this. And we'll give you these pills that make you a zombie, that address all these other psychoanalytic problems they weren't the problem. The problem was literally this: vertigo. I just didn't need to have that in my life anymore. I couldn't drive anymore, couldn't go to movies anymore. I couldn't go to movies for 7 years. I didn't watch a movie in a movie theater. Couldn't go with my kids. Couldn't go to McDonald's to watch my kids play without blowing up on somebody. Couldn't go, the light sensitivity constantly, all these other things. So, that said, it was that got me out of here, back to California. And within 1 year of committing like I did to all those other medications that all those doctors said, hey, we need you to commit to this drug. You have to be on it for this long, and then we'll start to see the results. That's what they tell you. You go in, you'll say, oh, here's this hardcore psych drug. It's going to take at least 2 weeks for you to feel what it's supposed to do for you. And be careful, because these side effects can happen. Yeah, well, I experienced those. Almost jumped out the 3rd-story window of my house in Nashville to the middle of the night one night. My wife wakes me up. It brings me to as I'm pacing around the room, and I don't even know it, and I'm in full body sweats staring at the window going, I'm going out that window right now. And talk to more people about Wellbutrin, and oh yeah, that's a side effect, all this psychosis stuff. Like, I thought you guys were trying to address this. Like, no, they're making it worse. They're continuing to give us all these poisons that completely exacerbate problems. Within 1 year of getting into the cannabis program in California under Prop 215, being able to go down the line, try all these different strains, because over my career, I didn't try cannabis till I was probably my 2nd or 3rd year in the league, going through a lot of stuff on the field, off the field, a lot of stress. And a player saw me dealing with this, and that the doctors were just giving me pills for sleep, pills for pain, pills for this. And one of my Hall of Fame buddies said, brought me home one day and said, Kyle, because we lived next to each other. He said, he gave me a joint. He said, you need to try this. Best night's sleep I ever had. Went on to a all-pro career that year, all-pro year, and subsequently following all-pro years. These were my best years in football, were under cannabis use. And then, all the injuries, et cetera, whatever. So fast forward, I'm able to try all these things in Prop 215 and go down the line because it was just wide open in California. If you remember, Prop 215 days was awesome. Hopefully it ultimately gets back to that with maybe the new hemp movement and all these things with what's going on with that. But I was able to go down the indica strains, tried every one, went down the sativa strains, and then bam, like one night out of nowhere, light sensitivity that I've been dealing with for 8 to 10 years just disappears within 30 minutes of trying the Jack Herrera strain. And I'm running around the house. My wife's freaking out. She's like, what are you doing? I'm staring into light bulbs. I had not been look at a light bulb without just searing pain resulting in a vertigo episode, extreme migraine headache. And I'm running around the house just like, like, I can't believe this. Like, let's go to the movies right now. Like, wow. This is a miracle. Like, it was literally a miracle for me. And then from that moment on, I knew it back then because I tried things over the years of my career that just hit different. And, every now and then you'd hit something that, because you didn't know back then, you just got it from your buddy. You got with the guys on the team that smoked or whatever. And you just traded stories and traded herb and all that and, helped each other out. And just every now and then you'd hit that one and just be like, man, I feel great. And then the person next to you would be like on the floor, And so I started to understand the difference in cannabis. And with that personal experience, I just didn't stop. Then I just kept going down the line of these strains, and I could put this strain on Depcote, this strain on Vicodin, this strain on Zoloft, on Somas, Lortabs, Darvocet. I can go down the line and tell you exactly which strains those are of cannabis. Because as I went down that line, I found out about the endogenous cannabinoid system, which is the #1 regulatory system in the human body. And in an NFL locker room, I was never told this. I was told I had Meniere's disease. I was tested for everything under the sun for Meniere's disease in New Orleans because that's when the vertigo started, my rookie year. No, I don't have Meniere's disease. No crap. You don't have Meniere's. You got concussions. You've had brain injury here that is getting worse by the year here. And we're not going to tell you about that. So here's these pills. And, it took me down that road to really have to get down on my knees, ask God for a new answer. And that was it, brother.
And so you talk about the NFL doctors and their ignorance generally to cannabis, right? I mean, it's sort of expected though, right? I mean, how are these guys going to know that? Obviously you've educated them. We've all kind of undergone an attempt to educate and to give people information about it. But even the medical doctors in this country, they don't get taught about the endocannabinoid system, right? And so they're taught to push the pills on you. The NFL doctors just want to get you on the field where you are useful, right? But little do they know. Well, they know, but a lot of guys are going home and medicating with some herb, and that's what's allowing them to get back on the field, right? And so the pills that you got, that were those pushed on you by the doctors? I mean, did they strongly suggest it? Did they put it in your hand? How did it work?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, here you go. The Saints got in trouble. It was like candy down there, right? But that was every locker room. They would just single out that team to get them in trouble, to be the scapegoat,
Right.
But the pills were 100% pushed on us. I remember sitting back in the back of the plane after a game, and the pills are going down the aisle with the trainers, right? They're just going boom, 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 handing them out left and right down the aisle. Vicodin, who needs painkillers? Who needs muscle relaxers? Boom, boom, boom. And I remember asking one of the team doctors, like, what's the long-term damage of this? Like, if I'm taking this on, and the guy told me, went through this detailed thing about how it's not going to affect me down the road ever. It won't matter. How many do you, I'm like, I'm only taking a couple a day. Oh, you're totally fine. You're too big. You're too big. What? It won't. Yeah. Your weight is a factor. Yeah, no, these were completely told to us as, no, there's no long-term, risk whatsoever. I mean, I went out and bought after I had that conversation because I had the money, and I was, you're young and stupid with a bunch of money. And so, no kids yet. And so I went out and bought 5,000 Vicodin from a doctor buddy. Cause back then you could, Rush Limbaugh got busted, that the whole game got shown. And now all these doctors were getting found out and closed their doors. Before Rush Limbaugh got busted, I got 5,000 Vicodin I had sitting in my safe. I was handing them out to guys on the team when they needed them. They came to me. Like, I'm not shy to say it. I got it in the mail. Like, it was no big deal. I mean, it was really a free-for-all. You ask if they push it on you. Well, when you can just call up any doctor and say, hey, I got $5,000 cash. I need 5,000 Vicodin. Okay, here's a whole duffel bag full of them. There you go. And that's how easy it was. And I could have got that from the team doctor. Easy. There was no regulation back then. So all the people that say we made a choice, we didn't.
Right.
I was a young man, like you were a young man, and we got bad information from adults and people who knew better. And all these doctors in the NFL, I've had an opportunity to get in front of them. And I had a full PowerPoint presentation at the top of the Marriott Hotel in Marina del Rey about 4 years ago that they completely buried. And they don't want to talk about it. They're still testing guys and popping guys. They're going after guys with NFL right now that are trying to say we want to use medical cannabis to its full capacity. And they're saying, oh, no, it'll damage you on the field and it'll hurt the fan perception. And this is their arguments to dismiss lawsuits in court. And their reasoning for finding guys still. They can take up to 3 games pay from an NFL player, and they still have to go to practice and meetings and play in the game, and they're getting away with it. It's insane.
Yeah, so they don't suspend you anymore. Now they just fine you, right? Do they put you in treatment? Because I know they made some adjustments to the cannabis protocol in the CBA, right? They increased the threshold for nanograms, and then now they put you into treatment, but they're also taking your money, right? So Randy Gregory out here with the Broncos got fined by the NFL several times. I think he had a doctor that prescribed him not actual cannabis, but like the pharmaceutical version of THC that he takes for anxiety and stuff like that. And so his agent / lawyer is suing the NFL for taking his money and claiming that, look, a doctor prescribed that to him in a state where it's legal, and you're saying that you're going to take his money because it's against the rules there. So are you saying that kind of the adjustments they made to the CPA is just kind of lip service? They're not actually doing anything. They just use it as a bargaining chip with the players?
Yeah, 100%. And it's still being used to perpetuate this reefer madness out here. The NFL being the entity that they are, they know the position that they hold in the community. Their whole defense now against this young man is that it is, or one of the parts of their defense, ridiculous reasoning for them to throw it out, is that it's going to affect fan perception or fan participation, or like
as if everybody's not smoking weed while they're watching, the games on Sunday. Like
you're in Denver, and every other, and this is this is how they do it, because this is a complete false statement. Every team has benefited from cannabis. Every team that is in a cannabis state, you can go and there's full in the parking lot. I mean, communities of people, fan bases in droves around cannabis now in pregame stuff that is taking over the NFL, and they know it. And it's run by these really crooked people that are calling themselves doctors. That's what it is. And these individuals, unfortunately, work for other people, and they are seeming to be strapped to their, Hippocratic oath only to them, not to us. And that comes with a lot of bad information. Again, if you have the knowledge that the number one regulatory system in the human body is whatever you want to call it, whatever system you want to call it, I don't care. Come up with another name. Can we at least talk about that? Call it the I'm an idiot and doesn't want to accept the endogenous cannabinoid system. Let's call it that. We'll put 3 letters.
Got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, 4 letters or some, deal that like they do with pharmaceuticals. Keytruda, Ozempic. Right? That's some stupid name that these doctors call the number one regulatory system in your body, so they don't have to talk about marijuana or cannabis, whatever, right? And let's talk about that, because I would like to know, how my body works. You would like to know, everybody in your audience would like to know how their body really works. And as it stands, the NFL has continued to perpetuate a medical practicing that is like taking your car down to your buddy that's going to work on it in his garage, that just learned how to work on cars and on YouTube.
Well, I think that like you're onto something with the names and the nomenclature around cannabis, because like these doctors who are very official and the stuff they learned in medical school, I mean, how are they going to receive the idea that Gorilla Glue is really the thing that's going to heal this thing? They're like, what is that? Like, I don't get that, right? But if it was like CF29 is going to heal this thing, they'd be like, okay, well, let's take a look at it, right? And so there's a lot of skepticism because of the cannabis is a mystery in some ways too. It's hard to tie it down. Like you just mentioned before, you would smoke with some of your buddies, you'd be fine, he'd be lying on the ground. So why does one human have a different reaction to the same strain than another? And to what extent does that make it difficult to prescribe it? You know what I'm saying?
God, I mean, I've been like you, and we talked about all the other pharmaceuticals that I've been on where they've told me, you need 2 weeks to figure it out. They told me if I get on Wellbutrin, it doesn't work out, come back. I got this other drug, right? If that doesn't work out, come back. I got this other drug. They'll tell you that. If naproxen don't work for you, come back. I got this other drug. If Aleve doesn't work for you, it's on the shelf. If Aleve doesn't work for you, whatever the other drug is will, right? That over-the-counter drug. Aspirin, ibuprofen, Aleve, whatever, blanking on those stupid drugs because I don't use them. And I haven't used them in 10 years. I haven't taken one pharmaceutical outside of Viagra in over 10 plus years, okay? 10 plus years. I've not needed one painkiller, one muscle relaxer, sleep aid, anti-inflammatory, nothing. I don't even take you take 4 Aleve, it's the same as one prescription strength naproxen. How did I know that? Because that's locker room knowledge, right? I don't have to wait on this prescription. That's street knowledge. I don't have to wait on this. I can go get, Sudafed, boil it down and do this and that. And I'm like, they're just creating a culture of junkies out here with all of this madness that they're doing, prescribing strain after strain after strain. And what the NFL's going after this young man for, it was brilliant that he figured it out and then went and got on a pharmaceutical that is a synthetic cannabinoid, because the pharmaceutical industry needs to be put to, on the street here out in front of everybody to expose that they are and have been widely talking about this, that they have advanced synthetic cannabinoid development to the level that it is in every pharmaceutical out there right now. There's not one pharmaceutical that is out there that anybody's taking right now that doesn't have a synthetic cannabinoid in it. Well, 100%. Triazolo, the other one that the guy mentioned that he's on, what is it? Lexinol, all these other synthetic cannabinoids that have had to have been developed to be accepted as a pharmaceutical. I still go to Costco or Sam's Club and the different pharmacies, the grocery stores, and I'll ask them for those drugs, and they'll go, "What's that? What's that?" And they'll bring it up on their computer, and they go, "Huh." Like every pharmacist, it's funny to do it. Go do it at your pharmacy and ask them to bring up these drugs. And they're like, "What is that?" "Well, it's a synthetic cannabinoid drug." "We don't have that. We don't have that." Go in the computer. "Oh my gosh, we do have that." "Well, I can have it here in a week for you." "Oh, okay." "No, I don't. No, thanks. I got the real thing." Right? So when it comes to strains, you need to understand, again, your cannabinoid system. There's a science to this, as it turns out. That's why I'm so advocating about this, because the science to this is real. Everyone has a strain out there. I found mine. It was through just random use and finding the one that hit right where it needs to. And then I've expanded into different realms with other strains to know that this can do this and that can do that. And you don't have to be high. This is not stuff that is about getting high or being able, suppressing your attitude or what it is. It's making you your best you, as the science turns out. It's balancing out your cannabinoid system, the number one regulatory system in your body. Why wouldn't you want to find balance in that? I have no idea. I got a letter from the FDA during COVID to tell me to shut up. They're going to ruin my company because I said CBD can cure COVID. This is a minor respiratory virus. What are we so afraid of? This is the number one thing to empower your immune system to get back to homeostasis. That's what the studies show that have already been done, that the government has done. It shows that. And they don't want to talk about that because you don't want to boost your immune system with this drug or that drug. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to get your immune system into balance. And that's the truth of cannabis and what it does. It's why everyone's so against it in the medical community, because it puts them out of business. Again, I haven't taken one pharmaceutical in over 10 years, like literally. And that's insane. 10-year NFL career, plates and screws all over me. I train all day still. And the further I'm away from those pharmaceuticals, the more I know I never needed one of them.
So for the layman out there, how do they find what strain works for them? I mean, do you just sample it and see what works, or is there some kind of test, some kind of blood test that can zero in on, what is going to work for your body?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, down the road, I would think, because again, we don't need this plant. They don't really want to talk about that, right? They might come down on your show to talk about this, that they can extract cannabinoids from your body, just like stem cells and everything else that we could be healing all these diseases with. They don't want to talk about that. My kids were born, and we did this thing called the cord blood registry. They give you this opportunity. They talk you into this. Well, this is you can save your child's umbilical cord and it'll go to this facility and it'll sit in a freezer box. And then maybe down the road, the future will allow us to use it for stem cells and everything else that you could apply to cure diseases. Well, guess what? It's been almost 15 years now. Oh, it has been 15 years now since my sons. And they told me 10 years when they're going to start doing this. And I actually ran into a guy, ironically, our life, right? Sat on an airplane with a guy who's a doctor developing around this stuff that went to school with Steve Gleason. And I said, how this could be applied to ALS. He told me back then 10 more years. Well, that's been 10 years and gone. And you still won't allow me. My daughter's got type 1 diabetes. First call I made. Boom, let's go. Cord blood registry. Let's get this fixed right now. Get this pancreas back working. Oh, sorry, sir, we can't do that. Oh, well, every year they call me to make me pay some more money to store kids' cords at their facility in Arizona. I've been demanding that they show it to me. Give me I've got doctors, I've got people that I can turn to you and say, we need to start using these. They refuse to use it. Cord blood registry is a fraud. Anybody out there that's considering saving their kids' umbilical cord, it's a fraud. It's complete false. This is a fake business that these people are getting a lot of money on doing. And just like that, is how this thing operates. These people are conspiring against us to keep us down and keep our health where they want it, being sick. I'm not that way, man. I haven't been sick in over 10 years, not taking pharmaceuticals. Breezed right through the COVID. All my family, everybody else breezed right through the COVID. My cousin
didn't get COVID at all. It didn't touch you.
No. On top of that, my cousin is one of the most accredited fire jumpers out in the Southwest. It runs and operates. He's like a fire chief now. He's like runs and operates all these big jumper teams and everything else. And his boss came to him and said, "You're the only one that didn't test positive for COVID in the team. How is that possible? With 25 guys, you're the only one that didn't test." Well, sir, my cousin, I got with him and he gave me this. To be honest with you, he gave me CBD. And I haven't tested positive for THC. It's like, how is that? Well, it's isolate, is what my cousin tells me, and this is his product, and he's using, and he's trying to tell people about this. They ordered 25 bottles from us to give to every their members. And those guys didn't stop after that. CNN doesn't want to talk about that. CNN doesn't want to talk about Daniel Franco, who I woke up out of a coma. Daniel Franco, you can go look that story up on Google right now. Daniel Franco, the boxer, sponsored by Jay-Z and Rocca, who's with the NFL now, right? Oh, wow. I saved your boxer's life. I gave him his cousin CBD, told him how to use it and put the drops under his tongue after 2 brain surgeries. They told the family to go say their goodbyes. I told him, drip that MCT oil with that CBD under his tongue and in his gum wall while he's out. You won't even need to wake him up. He did it. He said in 30 minutes, he woke up, went on to a miraculous recovery. They were telling him they're going to pull the plug 30 minutes prior to that. He woke up in 30 minutes. You could go into any hospital. I've told the NFL this. I've been telling all these doctors this. Go into any hospital right now. And any listeners out there that got a relative in a coma, go put some CBD drops right around their gum wall while nobody's looking. Because that's what that guy's cousin said. He said all the doctors said this going to die. He's going to be a vegetable for life, blah, blah, blah. And said, sorry. He said, I waited till everybody left the room. And all I kept thinking about was what you told me. And I had this bottle in my pocket that you overnighted to me because I got in touch with him on Instagram. I knew somebody was running his page. And I saw the story the next day. I was watching. It was on TV, the fight. Boom, got that to him the next day. He had gone through 2 brain surgeries. I told CNN this during Weeds 4 when they were doing that episode. Refused to talk about it. Refuse.
So I understand, like, hospitals and doctors not wanting to publicize that stuff because they want to protect their ignorance in a way and protect their revenue streams with their money and stuff like that. But why wouldn't an organization like a news organization want to break that story? That does not seem like something that people would want to know.
You'd think, but I guess. Well, Sanjay Gupta completely disowned, the entire cannabis community during COVID.
Why is that? I mean, he was all about it for a while, right?
Yeah, that dude was sitting at my house telling me all the things that cannabis could do and that I'm right in front of me, my mom, my wife, and my kids. And he completely ghosted me when all this took place. And I'm going, wait a minute, where am I? What world am I living in right now? What is going on?
When it took place, are you talking about your sort of like when the FDA told you to cease and desist or whatever, when you were telling people that CBD would prevent you from getting COVID, you're saying the folks turned on you after that?
Yeah, because I said CBD would cure COVID, and I was very vocal about that because the word cure is to bring into balance. It's not to do some miraculous thing. It's to get your health in balance. That's it. That's cure. That's the word cure. And you can look it up. It's not this thing that this is going to fix everything problem. No, this is a minor virus. I knew it could cure this disease because that's how you cure something, is to make it a thing that doesn't affect you to the point of death anymore, or that you have this disease and you can't get over it, or this sickness or whatever it is. And that's what happened. I said that COVID could be mediated by CBD, could be cured by CBD, and went into the whole science of it. And they sent me a letter and threatened to shut my company down. The whole deal was pretty interesting. And then subsequently, even the industry, cannabis industry, during COVID, you got to learn a lot about who people were, and I had the heads of weed maps. I'm not afraid to say it because I'm in the industry and I don't care because these people are frauds. The heads of Normal, the heads of Weed Maps, the heads of Kush Bottles Company, every one of those guys I found out were having conspired meetings behind my back to try to get me to shut up and how they were going to do that and kick me out of the industry, according to people that were on the inside of those meetings, sitting there going, what is going on here? Why are they saying, like, these people were all praising Kyle for his advocacy, coming out and saying all the things that are true about cannabis. And now we want him to shut up. Yeah, I can't tell you why these doctors, or I could tell you why these groups of people, are doing what they're doing and why they side with who they side with, right? We could talk about that all day long, right? We can get into all of it, but where's that going to go? Nowhere. It's going to go down roads of ridiculousness that nobody really wants to admit to. And at the end of the day, we're all stuck here. So how do we fix it, right? My answer is cannabis. My answer is weed, because you know why? Hadn't killed one soul in the history of the world. And if you got a health issue and it is serious, my daughter's got type 1 diabetes. She went in to the hospital with one of the highest A1Cs or whatever the heck all these numbers are that I'm learning about were off the charts. I sat with 2 of the heads of pediatric, whatever it is with diabetes, oncology, I don't know. And they literally said, what are you doing with your daughter? She should not be standing. She should be dead. How is this possible? We have never seen a case like hers ever in our history. This is Vanderbilt Children's down in Nashville. And we literally have a 2-hour conversation with 2 of the head doctors at Vanderbilt Children's about CBD and how they're hearing all about it. But they can't talk about it. They literally go and close the door to have this conversation. And we said, well, our daughter just kept feeling down. And when our kids feel down, we just give them more CBD and it works. They make their way out of it. It's fine. And every time we go to the doctors say our kids are extremely healthy. You know, it wasn't until this diabetes thing that we had anything to face health-wise. And, anyway, there's just truth. And then there's all these lies. And all these people want to just continue to perpetuate lies, just like we're seeing out there with our TVs right now and all this politics and, everything else. This is just a show. The Rock's going to be the president.
Dwayne Johnson?
Yeah, that's right.
What year? 2028 or?
Oh no. He's going to be the president this year, bro. That's what's going to happen.
The Rock, he's getting put in there at the convention or what?
I don't know how they're going to roll it out, but I've been paying attention to it for about 5 years, and it's been a slow rollout. And I just think there's just too much going on. There's a book you read called The Bible, and start reading it from the beginning at this age, it is like, whoa, I should have listened in church more, right? Because you see what's going on. You get it. You understand now. Okay. We're fortunate. We're in all these rooms with all these people with all this big money and all this big business and seeing all these people putting their hands together and how we're going to get more, right? And not caring about the people. Some of us did, right? So some of us sat on the sidelines and still are waiting to see the truth because we know why we're here. We know the truth and what's going on, right? It's right in that book. And if you look at it and you start going down the line of all the things that are happening out here, I've been paying attention to it for 5 years. And Trump called for the idiocracy about a month ago. And then he went out and performed the idiocracy at the RNC, right? The Hulkster, the whole deal,
yeah.
Kid. I mean, go watch the movie Idiocracy, and he's preparing it. That was a whole show that was presented to us so that we can be accepting of The Rock and what he's going to be, because he's been paraded around as becoming the president of the United States at some point. He was just on Fox News a month ago, 3 weeks ago, matter of fact. And he hasn't made one comment since the Hulkster. And then last year he was in meetings in DC with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all the military generals of the United States military behind closed doors. So, and Biden and Harris both said that they would endorse The Rock if he chose to run for president. That's what they said.
So which side is he going to be on?
Kamala hasn't picked a VP yet, and she hasn't. They really haven't necessarily said she's going to be the person. But then The Rock says he's not going to be the Democrat. He doesn't want to be the Republican. He wants to bring people together. He wants to bring. Why? Because what is he? The people's champ. And right. Well, and then last year or 2 years ago, they rolled out the new Under Armour edition of The Rock, right? And what is that? The presidential seal with the bull, right? With the bull, presidential seal with the bull. And we know that that's the future, right? That's what they're all fighting for. That's what they're all trying to achieve is ultimately, to be in service of the bull. And these people have been parading it around the Olympics and all these other events where they're just completely,
What do you mean in service of the bull? What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, again, you go to that book, that Bible book, and it tells a lot about these stories that haven't gone away. Everybody wants to go back to history and, we've learned we're next level. Okay. It's all next level of the same stories. So you read it at this age at 50 almost now, and you go back and read those books. Then the these, the those, and the thous just disappear. Okay.
Yeah.
You start seeing it as it's playing out, and you're going, that's happening right now. Oh, wow. We got fooled here that these people really have advanced because they haven't. And what it is this advancement towards, completely a world order. That is what they want ultimately. America is a facade. It's what it is. All my military buddies. I just lost another friend, killed himself. Guy, one of my best friends from high school, was a SEAL sniper, protected presidents. He was a sheriff in Florida for 16 years. Swagman, and he, Eric, took his life last year, and through depression and pills and all these things and drinking, and another great one lost. And in his suicide letter was all about the traumas that he received and all the things that he was made to do, and killing people and kids and women and children and everything, that he was forced to go fight this war, right? And look at us now. They've reinstituted the draft. You've got a war over in Ukraine. You got the war in Israel. You got China, right? And all these stupid things they keep throwing on us, while our borders getting flooded with people that are searching and seeking, in my opinion, for refuge from what they know, because they don't have the pop culture like we do. They got that book still, and they know what that book says. And this is a special place. And at the end here is what these people are all preparing for. It ultimately has to come to a point, right? And especially with these people, they have to fight for it. So we're being brought into all this chaos of, trying to say, you need to be a Democrat or a Republican, or you're gay, or you're straight, or you're, trans or bi, or whatever. Like, nobody's nothing. People need, it's so crazy how we're being allowed to be torn apart in all these scenarios. And, nothing helped expose that to me more, bringing it back around than being exposed to a miracle, right? That I was completely lied about in cannabis. And from then on, getting away from all those drugs that were clouding my mind and sucking me into these, traps of, oh, the world's going to end and we're going to have nuclear war and blah, 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 and all this and that. And if these people win, and it's going to be that. And if these people win, it's going to be that. Like, that's not what's going on. And the truth is in that book. People read it and understand it, and more people come together towards, a direction of unity, which is what the Rock's supposedly going to bring to us. Right? We're going to have unity, togetherness, and they're building homes in Vegas right now that are entire home developments that are for rent. There's no homes for sale. You can only rent these homes. And I don't know. I mean, you can go down all the conspiracy lines that are out here.
Is that because they're just trying to create a slave class that doesn't own anything, or is it this because they're preparing for some sort of cataclysmic world event? I mean, you talked about it coming to a point. Is there some event that's going to happen that breaks the dam, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are teed up for that they're not talking about. Just like the endogenous cannabinoid system. Why wouldn't you talk to people about the number one regulatory system in the human body when you're dealing with human health? And why wouldn't you be talking about this, meteor that every astrophysicist says is going to hit the Earth, in 2029 or whatever that's coming? You got.
Well, what could we do to prepare for that? Like, what would Or I guess we could probably stop worrying about, 2050, right?
Well, there's another book called the Book of Mormon that my ancestors were tarred and feathered for, and driven out of Missouri and went into Utah and fought a battle against the United States government, a war that lasted over a year, where not one U.S. soldier was killed because Brigham Young said that there wouldn't be one killed. And yet they lost the war. We invited them in. They came, they saw what we were, and they saw this, and they said, oh, that's what we're trying to do, because we want to fool all these people out here as to what that is. And so, we're all in it right now. I got back to church through the COVID, and that was through just a complete exposure and a vision from God that this is what is happening. You don't need to worry about it anymore. Keep doing you, keep being you, and stay you, because that's why you're here. My ancestors, my history, all these other things that I have to go by, right? Because, I'm staying on the sidelines. I'm not choosing colors here, right? Because I got too many friends in these locker rooms, right, that are seeming that they have to. And, nobody does. You're all children of God. Everybody's saved. Your soul's not for sale. At the end here, though, are some actual events that do take place that people do need to be aware of. My ancestors knew it. They went around, they put their houses and their buildings and all these other things around these things that are actually going to take place again. And that's just how the world works. They're keeping a lot from us. And it's unfortunate because, as Tyson DeGrasse said, nobody has to die if we're ready. No, nobody does. But the people in power, they don't want that many people to live. And so they're killing millions over in Israel and Palestine. They're killing millions in Ukraine. There's going to be an entire island wiped out in Taiwan and maybe even Korea. What are we going to do? We're going to be so tied up in all this ridiculousness. We're not doing anything. We're not stopping anybody from doing anything. And it's only getting to that point even more where there is a world agenda and a world order that will levy back down another COVID or whatever it is that they want to implement, right? Everybody wants to discount it even still after COVID. And it's like, I lived in Southern California. The freeways were empty. Everybody stayed home. You realize what they got y'all to do. This is ridiculous. I was going surfing every day because there was nobody on the freeway.
So during COVID, in my mind, it really emboldened the tech moguls and really gave them a lot more power than they had prior to that, because it pushed all of us away. It made us rely on Zoom, for example, what we're doing right now, sitting in 2 different cities. It's a great thing, but everyone started doing everything remotely. Nobody started seeing each other in person, right? And to my mind, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the Elon Musks of the world, that's exactly how they like it. Keep everyone apart. What you were talking about, fellowship, religion, it involves going to church and being with one another, right? And so to what extent do the tech elite represent who you're talking about there, the world order that's trying to orchestrate things and lead us down a dark path?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, Zuckerberg with Facebook and all these social media platforms, for sure, they've sold out. I mean, but then you go into Elon Musk and it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're just using gasoline to get these rockets up to space. That's not Tesla. These
Wait, those rockets aren't electric vehicles?
I know. These cars are not Teslas. These are Musks. These are not Teslas. If they were Teslas, they'd be recharging themselves through the wheels as they roll. This technology is all out there. You got all these people that want to come out and act like they're being some sort of modern day prophet by taking everybody's money and building rockets and shooting them into the firmament. I mean, maybe that's what he's exposing. There was a rocket flown into the moon a few years ago that went on deaf ears, and it actually really happened. And nobody claimed a responsibility for that. But it kind of exposed, like, wow, that's actually not that far away.
Right.
And, so you got all these people out here. It's like, when are you going to just say it, dude? Like, hey, we can't get out of here. All right. That's what we found. All right. So this is what's going to happen. And this is what these people are trying to do, because guess what? They can't do anything to you unless you have sold your soul and you have given into these people somehow. Then they can get you, right? Nas X, right? Whatever. All these different people who are losing their lives because they switch sides. All right. They need to. There needs to be some sort of integrity brought back with who these people are, because they have none. They're just getting sucked in and they get absorbed by these entities who show them these probably crazy things. But if you read that book I talked about, they won't be that crazy to you. They'll be quite familiar, and you'll remember from all the times before exactly who these people are. They're a bunch of frauds, period. Bunch of frauds. And it's all smoke and mirrors. This is all Scooby-Doo out here, right? I didn't wake up to war and all these things that I see on TV. I don't even know if that's really going on. All these
because when you go outside, when you go outside your house, the birds are chirping, the sun is shining. You don't see that outside. And so I do believe the internet just like aggregates misery and extreme situations and put them in front of your face, and it makes you think that the world that's going on everywhere. Certainly it's going on somewhere, but not in all of our lives. Okay, so I do want to talk, like, narrow it a little bit into the cannabis industry, because nobody knows the cannabis industry better than you do, and you and I kind of started out at the same time in it. We kind of diverged paths, and you were in it for 5 or 6 years before the COVID thing happened. Can you just kind of take us through your experience in the cannabis industry and sort of what you learned about, people, about the people in that industry, about who you can trust, who you can't?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a learning experience to say the least, as to finding the nuances of the industry, how to go down certain roads, you know, and then just jumping in and go, saying, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to start this brand. Let's go. Let's see what happens. I started a brand called Revenant. That's out there. We're in multiple states now. I started in California. I think I even reached out to you about it years ago. I'm just like, we've got to keep this thing going. We've got to keep this thing going because they want to suppress it still. They still want reefer madness more than anything to reign on this thing. And it's insane to me because of all the truths that have been exposed about how it heals people. And so I started the Revenant brand. I've got another brand out in the hemp space. That's huge now. The hemp market is massive because of the new farm bill that allowed the THC content to still be in all the flower, but just get rid of this little Delta 9. And as it turns out, almost half the strains of marijuana test under, the ratio, so they're hemp compliant. And that's why you're seeing this surge in cannabis out here in all these states, even here in Tennessee, where it's illegal. There's dispensaries everywhere, and they're selling weed. It's real weed. And they put it on the billboard, real California cannabis, right here. They're not doing anything about it here because it's the farm bill that opened that up. And so
Wait, you're saying it is cannabis, but it's not? There's something missing from it, but it's basically the same?
it is. It's just this one cannabinoid that the people that formed the law figured out that these idiots who don't know or can't or don't want to talk about any of this don't know anything about it. So they put it on Delta 9 at a 0.34 ratio so that if it tests at that or above, then it's hot, right? It pops hot. As it turns out, almost half the strains of marijuana test under 0.3 in Delta 9. It's just only one. The THC content and every other THC factor can test 30+%. But the Delta 9, as long as it's under that 0.3 ratio, it's declared as a hemp. And you can change all these shops in California. Everybody around here can get rid of all this regulation right now. Just switch over to hemp. Get all your licensing switched to hemp. Drop your marijuana license tomorrow. State of California and Denver are losing their minds if they're watching this right now, because it's real and it's true. Every one of these operators going under right now that are dealing with all this, boot on your neck with these regulatory idiots that are going around. You were around. You saw how these people, they had that lady, Lori Ajax, going around that we were talking with on stages, and she would sit up there and go, I don't know anything about it. I just got the job. I was working alcohol. I don't know anything about marijuana. Like, well, it's not marijuana. That's a racist term, first of all. Okay, it's called cannabis. And all of it is actually hemp, as it turns out. And that's what it was. And that's what it was until you guys made it into this racial thing, because you guys want to get into these communities and mark these people up and trap them and enslave them and do all these other things with this, right? Not that you care, because it was the number one prescribed medication in America up until 1934, cannabis oil. And then that changed, right? And then marijuana, and then reefer madness videos and all these other things came out. So anyway, the industry is a very fluid, landscape of things that constantly happen left and right. And then the regulation and all the things that you saw when we were fighting back then that we're pushing, that we caused, that change actually happened because athletes stood up. And that's why you did it. And that's why I did it. I just saw the opportunity in the business to keep that voice getting louder and louder. And it's allowed me to do that. I haven't made much money at all. In fact, none, could have go back into the business. You got to hire more people. You're doing all that regulation. I mean, California's, any state with marijuana, you're at 60+ tax, rate, 60 plus percents just going out back to the government, and then everybody else to pay, and all the people that want their hands out. You know, we're handing over $40,000 in cash to the sheriff when he comes by every other month. You know, like these people are just wanting money, 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 and everybody could end that right now by calling for equality, and that it's all just hemp. We get rid of all these cannabis regulations. The country could make twice as much money. They made over $1 trillion last year in cannabis sales nationwide. That could be 10 trillion, 20 trillion. We could completely get out of debt within probably 5 years of everything just turning to hemp and everybody going off.
Do you think President Dwayne Johnson will deregulate cannabis and then it'll solve all our problems?
Well, I've saved my helmet that I was planning to go to D.C. and throw over the White House fence, you know, my one last. And if we get a gridiron great in there, if we get a guy that's been in the locker room and has put a hand in the dirt, that understands all the friends he lost and understands all the young men that are out here searching for these dreams of football and MMA and wrestling and all these other things that, he was a part of, that we don't need to lose any of these guys anymore, ever, and hopefully that receptor, because it can be an executive signature on day one of Dwayne Rock's presidency runs. Then I might get out and vote, right? Because I don't believe any of this, that they'd leave any of this up to us. They just did all the roads in our town, all brand new asphalt. I know that wasn't a partisan deal, right? And they don't leave it up to us when it comes to anything here. I can promise you that.
Well, you just mentioned Gridiron Greats, and you got a foundation, right, with Jim McMahon, and you had a golf tournament out in Vegas during the Super Bowl. Can you tell us a little bit about your foundation, your partnership with Jim? What are you guys trying to accomplish with that?
Yeah, Jim and I both been involved with Mike Ditka. He drafted and got Jim up there to Chicago back in '85, right? And those Bears and the Super Bowl shuffle and all that. And then he drafted me in '98 to the Saints. And the Gridiron Greats is a charity that gives back to dire need football players, the players that are falling through the cracks. Still to this day, the average career length's only a 3.5-year career, if not less. The turnover rate now, because of all this stuff that's happening, and if you really don't perform, you're out the door. And they still don't have guaranteed contracts. And to be a vested player, it still requires 4 years. Game 1 of 4. Yeah. And so, it's important that we support this charity, gridirongreats.org. All proceeds go to dire need, former football players and families that have lost others, need help getting off the streets. People really wouldn't understand what's going on, but it's a great charity. And that's where I met Jim first, and smoked a fat blunt on the tour bus when I was playing a show there. And, we've been involved with that ever since, almost 15 years now. And unfortunately, the NFL hasn't fixed their problems. So we still have to play cleanup.
Yeah. It's amazing how many players, smoke weed and do it sensibly, because the demands of the job are incredibly strict, right? You have to show up on time. You have to be in tip-top shape. You have to memorize the playbook. You have to be good on the field. You have to be a professional. If you can do all that and consume cannabis, the cannabis probably isn't a problem in your life, right? You don't need to be punished for it or regulated for it. Funny story about Jim. Jim grew up in the San Jose area and then moved to I think Utah. My father was a teacher, U.S. history teacher, and taught Jim in 8th grade at Sylvandale Middle School in San Jose. It's pretty funny. Wow. Yeah, there was another receiver, Mervin Fernandez, who played for the Oakland Raiders, was in that same. I don't know if he's in the same class or the same middle school at the same time, but small world there. So Revenant is your brand. Gridiron Grace is a charity. Anything else we can know about you or find that you're working on?
No, Cloud KLOUD, Cloud Hemp, cloudhemp.com is the other one. That's the hemp side. That's coming out right now. We're getting all that THCA flower pre-rolls, and you can order it to all 50 states right to your doorstep, and that's not CBD. This is weed. And I don't care what anybody says. I'll keep talking about it until they put their stupid regulations on it, which they And it's, the hemp train left the station a long time ago. And God bless all the people that are continuing that fight. Shame on the industry for continuing to try to call for more regulation on that, because they're getting left behind in certain areas and people are making a bunch of money out here selling this plant and they're just jealous. Hopefully they'll call for more equality in the industry and get all these hemp laws to be in marijuana, because I own a dispensary. I own a full micro business in San Diego, and we're just getting crushed. We have to let people go all the time. We should be expanding. We have a 10,000 square foot expansion that we can't even afford to do because we're just paying our bills. And yet we're making millions every year. But every bit of those millions has to go back to the state, to the cops, the firemen, all the regulation, all the taxes, the new things that come out that they keep wanting to say we need to pay for, social equity and everything else. And it's completely strangling an industry. And it's not at the hands, as people would assume, the government and the DCC, which is the cannabis board. It's the industry itself. And the industry needs to stop being a bunch of cannibals and believing that they can create what has been told to me, a cannabis Illuminati. And we got a bunch of douchebags sitting in a room deciding if it's win or not. That's not weed. That's not this plant. And that's not what it's for. And anybody out there that's involved in this for money or fame or any of this stuff out here, shame on you, get out. We don't need you. This plant doesn't need you. Never needed any of these big billionaires. The only people that are really hustling and still going out there and exposing this are people that have been marginalized and completely pushed aside from this industry. The rest of the industry is getting so cookie cutter to what they want it to be, right? And it's disgusting, because we should be way far down the road. I should be able to order to my house what I need right now, instead of having to call my guy who's over in China right now and say, hey man, when are you going to be back home? Because I need some more XJ13 or some Jack Herrera, and I can't get that out of here. I can't do that. It's just not there yet, right? It's all over. But these little things that are still in this industry are keeping it from its full potential, and that hurts patients. That hurts people that actually are using this for medicinal purpose. And my personal opinion, there is no such thing as recreational marijuana. That anybody using it will ultimately find the relief they want to find in it. And then if they keep trying the different strains, they'll hit that one and it'll change their life forever. They will never look back, and they will realize that they not ever needed one pharmaceutical. And for any reason, like it is, again, it's about your human health. This is about your health, and whether or not I've not been sick in over 10 years, haven't had one flu or anything that's kept me from doing anything ever for almost 10 years straight, over 10 years now. It's getting longer now. It's crazy, the time that's flying. And my kids use CBD every day. My wife doesn't have skin cancers anymore. I'm curing people's cancers left and right that come to me all over the place. I'm helping people resolve all kinds of other issues with anxiety and all these things that you and I know it does work for, and is incredibly impressive for. And you can get off it at any time. It's not addictive whatsoever. So, I just tell everybody, go, this is your journey. This is your opportunity to understand those little words that are in these little scriptures in these books that talk about herbs of the earth being for the benefit of man. And if you use them, then they're going to benefit you. Use in prudence. Don't use to get high and detach yourself from life and whatever. No, you saw me and I said what I said because that's the truth. It saved my life. And it didn't save my life by getting me high every day so I could go and completely detached from the world. It saved my family. I'm married now. I'm still married 23 years. Don't know how that's happened. I'm in travel sports. I'm at all the games. I was a shut-in. I couldn't drive, couldn't go to the movies. I was vertigo constantly, in and out of the hospital. I would be dead by now. And there's just no doubt about it. So, I don't care what anybody says. I go through the airports now without any fear. I carry pounds. You can put it out there. Please arrest me. I want to platform. Please allow me the platform. Okay. They won't do it. Why? Because they know that they can't have a person like me say the things that I say about this, because it is the one thing that the man that came that showed everybody what the opportunity is to understand your Christ is is about. That's what it is, period. It's your Christ. They don't want you to have a Christ consciousness. They want you to take a vaccine that kills the VMAT2 gene completely, makes you a drone and a zombie.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, a lot of former players, when they're done playing, they disappear. You never hear from them again. You've done the opposite, man. You found a purpose, you found your voice, and I know all of us, anybody who ever put on a helmet, or not even just put on a helmet, out there dealing with health issues, can count you as an advocate for them. Brother, keep on preaching, keep on speaking your truth, keep on being an advocate for all of us. I appreciate you joining us, Kyle, and I miss you, man. So I hope I get to see you again. Are you guys doing the same golf tournament in New Orleans for the Super Bowl this year?
I believe so. We'll rally it all together like we do. I think, it's in New Orleans this year. So I'm trying to go big, man. I'm trying to go big. If not, I'm going to be down there for sure. And we can hopefully hang out in the quarter, go check out some shows at the House of Blues, and enjoy the Big Easy, man. It's one of my favorite places in the world. I'm actually going back there here coming up, signing some autographs at a convention down there, and it's only a 7-hour drive from Nashville. So I'll be there either way, and it's going to be a fun one, that's for sure. New Orleans always is.
Hell yeah. Thank you for joining me, Kyle Turley. For Kyle Turley, I'm Nate Jackson, Guerilla Sports. This was Dumb Jock. We'll see you guys next time. Later. Right on, Kyle.